In this video, she's going to show you how to build this two-seat bench with a table, so stick around.
Welcome to the Tailor Made Workshop. I'm Valerie.
I'm Jay. What are you dragging us into today?
Today we're going to be building bench seating for the backyard. I am tired of sitting on the rocks.
Okay, so for those that are just starting out, what's the first thing somebody does with something like this?
The first thing I do is I make sure that I've read through the plans and I fully understand the whole process.
Because I won't.
After I understand the process, that my next step is to take all my boards and start laying them out and drawing where I'm going to cut.
Because you want to get like the most efficient use of the wood, so you get minimal like leftovers, right?
Right.
But then I'm assuming, because if I'm looking at all these boards and stuff, I see like knots everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's part of why I like to draw them out where I'm going to cut. Like with this first board, there's a lot of knots. This first board, there's only one cut, so I can start at one end, the other end, or even take the middle of the board. I just like to take each board, flip it over, and look and see what I have to work with, and make sure that I'm using the best part of the wood.
So that the stuff you want to see is up, and the blemishes and defects and stuff are hidden.
Right, that's
Okay.
right.
Now, I see lots of knots, some right on the edge.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a problem because, I mean, I know when we've cut stuff in the past, knots are like really, really hard and chunky.
They're hard to cut through, and they also chip out really easy. So I want to make sure wherever I do make my cuts that I'm not cutting right on a knot if I can help it.
Okay.
As I'm starting to map this out, my first cut that I'm going to make is solid. I know that that's exactly the right measurement, but because of the width of the blade, I'm just approximating for the rest of, it's going to be about here, and I'm putting a little note to myself on exactly how big to make it, because I want to make sure I can't just draw out each line on the board and cut, or it won't be exact because of the thickness of the blade. That's called the kerf. It will make each measurement a little bit off down the rest of the board.
Okay, so you got all the markings done, you've got the sides up that you want to cut and all that kind of stuff, so now it's just cutting and drilling and all of that stuff, right?
Yep. Right now, next step is cutting everything. Always be sure to wear eye protection and ear protection whenever you're using loud power tools.
Okay.
Let's
And
get
I guess
started.
you need me to hold something, right?
Yep. You're the
Okay.
muscles.
All right.
We worked as much as we could yesterday. It got too hot in the garage, so we took a break. We're back at it this morning. I have a few more straight cuts to do, and then we're going to get on the angle cuts.
Okay, so all the straight cuts are done. Those are easy because those are just a straight 90 degrees. It's an easy cut to get to,
Right.
right? But now we've got to get some angled cuts in here. So, how are you going about getting that? For example, these are 15-degree cuts, right? According to the plans.
Right.
So how are you figuring out what 15 degrees is?
Well, first, where is that measurement going to be? Am I measuring on the longer side or the shorter side? So I just refer back to the plans for that. I actually just drew it out on a piece of paper just to make it easy for me to understand. Then I set my saw at the 15-degree mark, and then I go back and verify with a square. It has a 15-degree mark, so I butt this little lip up against my piece of wood, move the one edge to 15 degrees, and draw a line. Then I know, then I can turn on my saw and use the laser and verify is what I just drew where my blade is going to cut before I cut. So measure twice, cut once.
The other thing that I saw you're doing, even on the 90-degree cuts, was how are you micro adjusted the boards that you were cutting. Why? What were you doing and why were you doing that?
Okay, so when I make a measurement and I draw a line, then the blade is, a 1/16 thick. I know that part's going to be chewed off. So if this is the piece that I want, I know I want the blade on that side of the line. If this is a piece that I'm going to use, I want the blade on that side of my line. So I want the blade on the outside of the line. So that's why when you see me going down and scooting it over just so that it's outside the line, then I know.
Okay, so you pulled out a new tool, you got the bandsaw out. What are you doing now?
The plans call for rounding the top edge of the backrest supports. So I drew a little circle there. You can use anything round. I often grab a plate from the kitchen and just use that to make, because it has to be precise.
Anything makes a jig, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and for that, and then these are the front legs, and there needs to be a notch cut out here for the to support the front support.
Okay.
So
And you're gonna do that on the bandsaw.
I'm going to do it on a bandsaw. You can use a jigsaw if you don't have a bandsaw. I like to tape my pieces of board since I need to make two exactly the same. Tape them together, cut them out that way. That way they're exactly the same.
Okay, so cutting's done.
Yep. We're kind of starting to get into that home stretch. The next steps would be prepping the wood for whatever you're going to finish it with. I've decided I wanted to paint it white since it's so sunny. I don't want to burn my little tushy. So I need to sand them, all the pieces, and get them ready to paint.
Okay.
While I'm sanding, I'm sending you to get lunch.
And some paint.
And paint, yes.
Okay. Well, then I'll let you do that. I'll go get us some food and some paint.
Let's do it. Okay, we're wrapping up day 2. I got all 46 boards sanded. Whew, that was a lot of sanding. But every nook and cranny is sanded and they're ready to paint now. I want to paint them before I put it together because it is going to be outside. I want to make sure that every surface of every board is painted and well sealed so that it can weather the rain and the snow.
Okay, so finally here.
Yep.
So everything's sanded, everything's painted. That was a lot of, like, what you put, how many coats of paint on?
I put at least 2 coats of paint, and I anticipate maybe doing one last coat after it's put together, but I just wanted to make sure I had paint on every surface of each board before I started putting it together.
And that was a lot of sanding and everything to get these
Holy
things
moly,
red.
that was a lot of sanding. My thumb has just now got its feeling back after all week.
So finally here, ready to put it together. I mean, you got everything.
I tried to keep everything together, the like size boards together and labeled. That way the build process will go much quicker if I don't have to remeasure which board is this as I'm going along.
So for assembly, it says to start with the front and rear legs and then the support
Yep.
structures.
And then it tells you exactly where to put each piece, and then you leave 11 inches between this surface and that surface, and you match the angle to the top of your. Just using my quilter's ruler to square everything. Just make sure it's all flush and where I want it. When you do the other leg, make sure you flip everything the other way so that you don't build 2 legs going one direction and one not going the other, because the back legs angle back. So. Woohoo!
Side's done.
legs. The next step is to attach the sides to the front support. It didn't say in the plans, but I checked and we need 3-inch screws for this step. Okay, the next step is putting the rear support in, but just note that when you put the front support in, you want to make sure that you have your 9.5-inch measurement from the floor up to where the board is, the bottom of the board. Okay, I know that this board is going to be perpendicular on the short side to the floor, so I drew my line 8 inches up, made a horizontal line, and then I used the square to make sure that it's perpendicular to the floor. Drew my line, and then just drew an outline of my 2x4 since I know that that's the size board that's going in there, so I know where to drill my holes. I want to pre-drill into the ends of my board so that they don't split. And I'm going to do that with going in from the outside where I already drew the pilot hole, going outside in. One way to be able to do this on my own is to use these clamps and just kind of hold it, give it a place to rest. The next step is to attach the cross supports. Those are the pieces that are squared on one end and have an angle. The longer part of the angle is going to be at the top, and it's just going to rest right now on top of this rear support. And then I'm using, again, my quilter's ruler. It just comes in handy a lot. And I'm just keeping it flush, bringing the board up to it. Then I'm going to clamp it in place before I drill my pilot holes and screw it. Okay, in the plans it didn't specify whether to screw the screws in this way or to screw them from the outside into this board. We decided that the best course of action would be to go this way because we already have 2 screws coming this way, and we would have had to work around them going that way. So 2 screws going this way on this board, 2 screws going that way on this board. They don't hit each other. On these next 2 supports, you're measuring 16 inches from the inside of this board to the outside of this board. For example, 16 inches over to this side of that board. And then I'm also going to just clamp a sacrificial piece of wood to hold the right place so that it's flush with this. Now we're ready to install the back supports, but before I do that, I want to secure the back of the seat support to the outside legs. Now we're ready to install the outside back supports. You notice that the 15-degree angle here, you're going to want to line it up, and then the lower edge should match the edge of the board, then your board should line up. Now we're ready to attach the 2 center back supports to the seat supports. The seat supports have not been screwed down yet at the back end, but I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take 1 screw diagonally just to hold it in place. The seat itself will also add support to keep it square. Okay, now we're ready to attach the back supports to the seat supports. And they'll be oriented just the same way as the other ones. Line up your 15-degree cut with the back side of your back support. It's time to attach the seats. You're going to attach the front one and the back one first, and the front one's going to hang off the edge by 3/4 of an inch. But because our board is already 3/4 of an inch, we have an easy way to line it up. Butt this side up against here, and then put it out right there. We're going to sink 2 screws into each side. Boom, boom. Then do the same with the back, and then space out the 3 in the center.
Now, wouldn't it be better to like use a line or something so all the screws are in a row?
If you want to get that anal, yeah.
Tell you, if I do it, they're gonna be
Yeah.
janky.
Yeah.
You would be much more happy, I think, if they were all lined up. I know my wife.
You might be right. Now we're ready to attach the back slats. And we're going to line it up on the top of both boards. I'm going to put both screws in from the outside, and then I'm going to just make sure that this piece of board is lining up on the edge with the edge. Okay, as you can see, we have the seat and the backs done. We found it easier to lay it on its back to be able to have the spacing, get a bird's eye view for the spacing on the boards and to drill them in, and we didn't have any resistance because it was pushing up against the floor. So now we're ready to attach the supports for the table. So I want to make sure that these vertical supports are truly vertical, straight up and down, so I'm butting up the little lip of my square and then scooting it out and lining it up with the bottom of the board. Okay, the next step is to attach the horizontal support for the front of the table to each of these vertical supports. We're going to go with screws in from the front. I'm just going to repeat the same process for the back supports. So the back support for the table calls for 2 2x4 screws. Oh, trouble working them in there. Back to back, that way. The second one is going to support, you're going to drill in from the inside of the back support and help just strengthen it up a little bit better. So I'm going to clamp these down and then we're going to put some screws in. Okay, because I want to make sure I don't miss, I'm going to take the scrap and just draw an outline where this board is so that I know where to drill inside of. Okay, we're in the home stretch. 2 more steps to go and we're done. Right now we're going to attach the table to the table supports. We're going to line up the back of the table with the backrest support.
Okay, project's done.
Overall, it was a pretty easy build.
Time consuming.
Low time consuming.
Lots of sanding.
Lots of sanding. I'm not sure if I'll ever recover from that.
Lots of bending over, putting in screws and stuff.
Yeah. And even though I painted, now that we have everything together, things got dinged up and there's holes, you know, I want to patch up those holes and then go back and put one last coat of paint on and then we're done.
Maybe throw some color on here with some pillows or something like that.
Maybe, yep.
I guess that's it.
That's a wrap.
So-
If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next time on the Tailor Made Workshop.
Thanks for watching. Okay, so you marked all your boards, you picked the pretty side of the faces and all that kind of stuff.
Mosquito. Love you.
She says there's a mosquito. Was it really? I don't know.
And you guys saw she drilled the holes, so if they're janky, it's not my fault. Okay, so these ones look good. These ones that I first did by eyeball were janky, so that's my fault.